The goal of what I'm trying to do here is to actually get you working with Twitter primarily. If we've got enough space, I will try and talk about LinkedIn as well. We're going to go through it a little bit basic. I've just had a conversation with, as it turns out, with some of my students, my old students. And a couple of years back, when I had my first talk with my students, who were the third-year students, I walked into the room and I said, "Okay, guys, who of you have got a Twitter account?" And I was absolutely, completely flabbergasted. Not a single hand went up. Not one hand in that entire group. Now, these were young advertising professionals, the guys that are kind of like leading advertising into the future. I then walked into a presentation, and it was a presentation I'll never forget, for Standard Bank student loans. And in that presentation, the guys went all through their stuff, and I got to the end, and I thought, when is somebody going to talk about mobile? Surely we're talking about students. Isn't there going to be a mobile solution in here? And I went through and I went through and I went through, and I went to the end of the lecture and the marking session, and I went up to the door on the outside, and I bashed my head against the door on the outside because it just wasn't happening. It didn't happen at all. The interesting thing is that of that class, almost every single one of them is in digital advertising at the moment. They all converted, they all understood, they all took up the process and went forward. I put this little screen up a few 293 seconds ago, okay, and it's trying to run and to tell you what's happened in those 293 seconds. Just have a look at those numbers to give you an idea of how important this stuff is. 33,000 Twitter accounts have been created. There have been 57,000 LinkedIn searches. How many of you guys have got LinkedIn profiles? If you want to get a job in the future, you better have a LinkedIn profile. It's just a fact, okay? You don't have a LinkedIn profile, you're not going to get found. So much of the job searches, even in South Africa, are happening on LinkedIn. So you've got to have the stuff there. It's really, really important that you have a LinkedIn profile. So the first thing that you do this evening, or the first thing that you do second thing that you do with your tablet, is you put on your LinkedIn profile and you start working on it and you start getting it going. How many people blog here? Nobody blogs. Blogging is running a personal diary. I sort of like what we used to do in the olden days, write our thoughts down on a piece of paper in a diary, and just keep it forever. And maybe our kids would read it at some stage. Blogging is the same thing. Okay, you use a program called a blog, and it's a chronologically ordered website. If you use blog programs like Blogger, take that down, Blogger, Blogger. Blogger is run by Google. Okay, so they bought Blogger a couple of years ago. And it's actually a really cool platform. It will take you from the time that you open up Blogger until the time that you can start writing your first post, should take you somewhere between 6 and 7 seconds. That's how hard it is to do. Okay, so start sharing your stuff, because when I made that comment earlier about that if you're not on Google, you don't exist, I really mean it. People Google you before you walk into meetings. People look at your LinkedIn profile. People want to know that stuff about you. If you're not there, you don't exist. I mean, I honestly believe that. If I find somebody that I'm going to talk to, especially somebody who's meant to be reasonably serious in business, and I can't find anything he's written, and I can't find anything that he's said, and I can't find a single talk or his profile, sorry for you. I just think that you haven't kind of like got anywhere. That is really important. Look at the rest of those numbers there. As we were talking there have been in these now 506 seconds since I started running that. Google has made $800,000 in ad revenue. Okay, that's those little things on the side of your Gmail search. 800,000 rand of ad revenue. That's reasonably sophisticated. I can't even read the number of emails that have been sent. And I've got to the stage anyway that if you send me an email, I tend to read my emails maybe 3 times a week. So if you want to get hold of me, please don't send me an email, because I get like 600 a day. And when it gets to 1,000, I just mark all as read and I move on to the next thing. Because if you're going to send me an email, emails are low priority communication in my life. So please, guys, let's get up onto Twitter. It's like really easy. You click on the Twitter icon and you sign in. You give yourself a username. Try and select a username that's not too long, and mostly try and select a username that's actually got to do with your name, because Twitter is that kind of thing. It's about building a following. It's about building a profile around you. You're trying to get people to follow you. I think, if you're not part of this wave, you need to realize that the wave is moving, and you can't not be part of it. We've just got to get onto it. So has everybody created their Twitter account now? What is social media? Can anybody offer me a definition of what social media is? I actually personally hate the word media because it implies that it's another thing like TV or radio or something like that, whereas in fact it's not. It's something completely different. Can anybody give me an idea of what they might think that, what could we call social media? Okay, guys, give me something on social media. Okay, what happened with technology, or what happened with communication in the beginning is that if we wanted to talk to people, we had 2 options. We had the option of speaking to people one-on-one, and to do that, we did that on face-to-face, so we used things like telephones. So we talked to people one-on-one. Big advantage of that is that when you talk to somebody one-on-one, they can talk back to you, right? If we wanted to talk to a lot of people, what we did is we took the same message and we put it together and we crafted it and made it really, really, really tight, and we gave the same message to everybody. So we put it into a radio program, we put it as an ad, we did it as a press release, we did it as some kind of recorded message, and we gave the whole thing out to everyone. The technologies that enable us to talk one-on-one and for people to feed back at us are not good at us talking to lots of people, and the technologies that allow us to talk to lots of people are not good at letting us get things back to us. What the internet did, or one of the most important things that the internet did, is it sucked in all the different technologies together on one place. The TV moved to the internet. Discussions moved to the internet. Twitter has become the world's breaking news device. All the journalists in the world are on Twitter. The next step of that interaction part, where people started talking back, was that we got to the realization that actually the key way that we spread messages or ideas, and every one of us in this room is in the business of selling ideas or spreading ideas. We want to spread ideas of one sort of another, that we like this thing or we don't like this, or we want to do something else, or please come and join here, or please come and sell your stuff to me, or I don't want to deal with you. All of those things are are really what social media is about. So we got from a stage of broadcasting, me talking to all of you, to a point where you could talk back in an interactive field. But the key stuff now is what you do when you talk to each other. And modern marketing and modern buying is all about how we are part of that network, the network below normal communication, and that's what social media is. Social media are all of those abilities to connect one to another. I found in the past that many people who get started with social media feel like this guy. And I used to be a soccer coach, and one little kid who used to sit on the side of the bank while I was teaching these 9-year-olds. I think they were even younger than 9-year-olds, 6-year-olds. I was teaching these 6-year-olds how to play football. And he was sitting there, and he was sitting there and sitting there, and I asked him to come and join. And when he came and joined, he really loved football so much that he turned out to be my best player, and it was just a case of getting him from the bank into the space. Not only did he turn out to be my best player, he actually, a couple of years ago, went on trial and tried out for, okay, it wasn't the toppest English Premier League side, but he tried out for Crystal Palace. So it was just him getting involved into the process that did that. So that's what I want you guys to do. So if we're all on there. So what's the first thing? Twitter is 140 characters, okay? It's an SMS is how long, guys? 160 characters, okay? So they took an SMS and they shortened it in order to give a little bit of space for code that has to run with that SMS, because you can use Twitter on your phone. You can send an SMS to update your profile. So there's 140 characters. 140 characters isn't long, but it's a very cool length, because what it does is it forces us, when we are writing tweets, to think very carefully of how we compose them, because you've got to try and get an idea into 140 characters. So you have to start understanding how you need to write it. In fact, when I do strategy consulting with clients, I make them write their company's vision in a tweet. I reckon if you can't write your company's vision and what your company does in a tweet, you haven't thought clearly enough. So you break it down to 140 characters. There's a couple of things that when you put together a tweet that you need to remember, though, is that if your tweet is interesting, somebody might want to retweet it. Okay, I'll talk about retweets now. A retweet is they send it to their friends. But when it goes with your name, your Twitter name in the beginning of it. So you've got to leave space in your tweet for the tweet to go plus your name, because it'll be retweet Walter Pike and the thing that I said. So you actually effectively only have around about 100 to 110 characters in which you should write your tweet. So remember that. First lesson. Don't make your tweets longer than 110, maximum 120 characters, because you want them to be retweeted for a whole lot of reasons. In Twitter, every name is, when you talk about somebody and you want that person to receive the information that you have been talking about them, you put an @ sign in front of their Twitter name. So if you make a tweet and you say @Walter Pike and tweet about something that I'm saying, I will get that tweet in my timeline, whether you follow me or not. I will get the @Walter Pike tweet. So that will make me do a whole bunch of things. One of them is I'll read it, so you'll have made some contact with me. But also, I might follow you back, because I might think, well, this is a really nice person. They think that the things that I say are cool, so I'll follow them back. So when you're wanting to build up your Twitter following, the @ sign and @ing people is quite an important part of your strategy. Okay, so you follow people that that you want them to follow you back. So a retweet, at the bottom of each tweet, you get a couple of options. You get the options to star. Okay, so you mark as important a tweet. So you push that little star and you mark it as important. That wasn't important. That starring thing had no value to us at all until very, very recently. And because Twitter are starting to introduce an algorithm which is very, very much like the Facebook algorithm that delivers stuff in your timeline. I imagine everybody's got a Facebook account because that's probably more popular. But you will have noticed that your Facebook account doesn't deliver everybody's updates. I mean, if you've got 2,000, 3,000 friends or whatever that's coming that are part of that, Facebook won't update your each one of those friends' posts onto your timeline. It will only do the ones that it thinks that you are interested in. So when you start looking at Twitter and you start starring it, the algorithm that Twitter is putting in now will make sure that the things that you star will get priority in your Twitter timeline. So you're going to lose people and get people back. I think it's a terribly bad idea of Twitter's, but because I like the randomness of Twitter, but it is what they're going to do. So that's what the star is. The other option that you've got is to retweet. And retweeting basically takes a post that has been written by somebody else and shares it with your followers. I haven't spoken about followers. Twitter will allow people, anybody who wants to follow your updates is allowed to follow your updates. So just click the button that says follow, okay? And they will get all the things that you say. You have no choice about that. You can make yourself in sort of an incognito mode, but that has very little value unless you're using Twitter as a closed communication group. In other words, unless you want to have private conversations within a company or football team or something, and you close it off so that nobody else can see what you're saying. Other than that, it makes no sense to make it private. So anybody sees what you write. But each person has got their own followers. So I mean, I think I've got about I can't remember, about 7,500. And if I write out a tweet, it reaches those guys. But obviously, that's not the whole Twitter universe. If any of those people who like what I say, they will then retweet. And you'll see on the Twitter program, it's got like little arrows that allow, it says that you're retweeting it. And you'll also see that when the message comes across, it will say RT, at Walter Pike said this thing, and it will go out in that way. You've got a couple of choices with retweeting. You can retweet to your followers only. You can edit your retweet. So if somebody has been clever and put together a 90-character retweet or something like that, a tweet, then you've got space to say, yeah, this is a really good idea, or I concur, or look what this dork just wrote, that kind of stuff. So you add value onto that person's tweet, and it goes out. So that's what a retweet is. Is everybody with me so far? DMs, direct messages. It's the same as Facebook, what they call personal messages. A direct message is private. It will only go to the person that you direct it to. And it works exactly the same as the @thing. It's a bit of code that falls into the front. Whereas has no space between the sign, the @sign, and the person's Twitter handle. In the case of a direct message, there's actually one space. And I don't know why they did that. I think somebody some developer in the beginning got it wrong. But so it goes directly to the person that you're sending it to. The one problem is, to stop spam, they don't allow you to direct message anybody that you haven't got a relationship with. So somebody who's not your friend, you can't direct message them. It will just come back and say, sorry, XYZ doesn't follow you. The way around that, of course, is to send them an open message at Walter Pike. Please follow me. I want to send you a DM or something like that. And then hopefully they'll follow you and you'll create the connection. Okay, so DMs are private connections. Hashtags. Hashtag is actually something that happened by accident. When Twitter first started, there was no such thing as a hashtag, and some company along the way called themselves Hashtag, and they started the fashion of putting this little pound sign in front of a keyword. Now, hashtags are absolutely vital in the way that we understand Twitter and the way that we use Twitter, because hashtags create a community around a specific topic without forcing us to follow every person that's interested in that topic. So, for example, if say OR Tambo ran a hashtag ORT, and you could follow that hashtag. So what you do is a Twitter search, and you'll see on your Twitter program there's a little magnifying glass, the thing for search, and you search hashtag ORT. Now, I don't know if that thing exists, but it would be good if it did. And then while you're at OR Tambo, you're following the stream of the announcements and things that are going on at OR Tambo. When you leave, you no longer follow that hashtag, and it disappears into oblivion, or as far as you're concerned, it disappears into oblivion. So here our hashtag is PURCO SA 2014. It's quite a long hashtag, so it's going to take up quite a lot of your tweet. So you now have to still fit that in with your tweet and still leave still leave space for us for space for retweets. Okay, so you still have to make your thing shorter. But hashtags, does everybody get hashtags now? There's nothing magical about it, although now Twitter has developed it into their program so that you'll see on most of the Twitter clients, you'll see that there is a that'll come up in blue or another color and in the tweet, and then if you click on that hashtag, you will find the stream for all of those hashtags. Okay, so yeah, and that has massive advantages for marketers and masses of advantages for people like me, because what I do is I track those conversations and I try and understand what it looks like around that hashtag, who's involved, who cares about the hashtag. Okay, everybody got that? I mean, that's how simple Twitter is. Easy. Okay, when you're setting up your profile, try and get a name, because that is your own name, but I know it's a bit hard these days. But try and make your name reasonably short. So if your name is Arnold Schwarzenegger, then and you've taken up like 90 characters with your name already, it limits your ability to deal with Twitter. So try and not do that. Try and keep it reasonably short, but try and keep it personal. The next thing, because Twitter is actually mostly about people, make sure that you have a profile pic of you on Twitter. Okay, so it's your face, you're recognizable. If you put a picture of you in a group of people, try and make sure that the picture is with you in the front of the group or something, so people can identify who you are. And I'll tell you a story about that. I was talking to the management of Doppio Zero the one day, and I was trying to get them interested in understanding how social media works. And I set up a Twitter stream, a searching for the word Doppio. And as it turns out, just really, really luckily, somebody in the Doppio restaurant in Rosebank put out a tweet with a picture of the menu and says, these guys say this is a gluten-free menu, and it isn't. Look at the ingredients, because they listed the ingredients in the thing. So as it appeared onto the screen, I thought this was a golden opportunity, and I said to the management of Doppio, okay, what are you going to do now? And I said, oh, well, bloody idiot, he doesn't know what gluten-free really means, etc., etc. I said, no, guys, you know who this guy is. You know which restaurant he's in, because he tweeted it. You know what he looks like. Send your manager down to explain to him what a gluten-free, why your thing is gluten-free, and offer him a free cup of coffee. So sure enough, 2 minutes later, the manager of the restaurant went to this guy and offered him his coffee and explained to him what the gluten-free thing was about. The net result was the next 5 tweets that guy put out was about how fantastic Doppio are, how quickly they picked up on his issues, what gluten-free really is, and how it works. So they managed to turn something that was really negative into something that was really positive. Which also brings me to another point, is that if you're running your social media or your Twitter in a corporate context, you've got to be able to react immediately, or to be able to understand stuff that's happening immediately. And that comes how you use your search function, or you use online reputation management tools, etc., etc. But I don't think, unless we have time to discuss that, that's really important for me to cover now. The next important thing about your profile is your description. Now, many people pay too little attention to their description. Your description is, in fact, the most important bit of copy probably in your social media existence. Because what will happen if you're trying to build a following behind you, in other words, people who care about what you're trying to say, they are going to see that you've said something smart or something clever, or that you look like quite an interesting guy, and they're going to go to your profile. When they get to your profile, they're going to read who you are. If you've missed the opportunity to explain who you are, then they will have moved off. And according to that video of Eric Coleman's, the average person on social media has got an attention span of 7 seconds, or 0.7 seconds, whereas a goldfish has got an average attention span of 0.8 seconds. So you're going to be lost. Never allow yourself to get lost, okay? And then build your background and your background picture also to be part of your understanding of who you are. Twitter is not much use without followers. So before you start trying to get followers, and I'll tell you how to do that now, before you start trying to get followers, what you need to do is to make sure that you are somebody worth following. And you do that by tweeting. Okay, so you set up a whole bunch of tweets so that when somebody comes to your account, they see, okay, she follows 3 people and she's got 0 followers, but would I like to follow this person back? And they will follow you back if you've got decent content. And decent content is not, I brushed my teeth this morning. Decent content is something relating to the reason that you're on Twitter. And for most of us, it's something to do with our personal or our professional profile, something that we're trying to spread. So we try and do that. The next step is, the best way to get followers then is to start following people that we care about, or the kinds of things that they say that we care about. And we pick that up from the blogs that we read, or from searches on keywords that we are interested in. So take, for example, I'm a polo player. So I want to maybe get linked into the polo playing fraternity. So I go and I search for polo. And when I search for polo, I will get a list of profiles. I will then click onto those profiles, And out of those profiles, I will select the people that I want to follow that I think have got something to say. And then when I follow them, the chances are that they will follow me back, because it's like a sort of an unwritten bit of etiquette almost that you follow people back. I mean, I don't follow everybody back. I only follow the people that I think have got value back. Okay, so you start first populating your profile with content. Then don't fall into the trap of thinking that the number of followers that you've got, that the bigger the number, the more important you are in the Twitter sphere, because it's not true. Social media is more about position. And this is very theoretical, so I'm not going to go through it in massive detail. But it's more about position, is what role do you play? So sometimes I've asked people, who is more important? A person with 10 followers or a person with 10,000 followers? And many of the Twitter influence tools will relate the number of followers to how important you are. But it really actually makes no difference. You could be a person with 2 followers, and you could be the link between one of those groups. That picture there, all the little dots that you can't really see are pictures of people, and all the little green lines, which you don't see that clearly either, are the connections between those people. So you'll see some quite interesting things there, if you could see it in detail, is that in this blue thing with the 2 crescents, there's a person just north of the central crescent where all those green lines go to. Do you see that? That person is probably the most important person in that graph. Why? Because that person links everybody else together. The linking is more important. It's the ability to take an idea from one group of people and move it to another group of people. This graph is actually, I was doing some work with Tuli Modensela last week, and this actually is a graph that follows the hashtag Modensela. And it's a hashtag of what happened from, I think we ran this on Monday, and this is what happened prior to Monday. That's a picture of how that relationship's going. There's a lot of science behind that. I just want to tell you that, but I don't need to tell you much more detail of that, other than to say that each of those single dots, the ones that aren't in a group, are what we call outliers. Those are people interested in the topic, but not joined into any community. One of your strategies, if you were a corporate trying to do this, trying to link to people, would be to bring those people into your following thing. You would go out and you would find each one of those people and follow them so that they could follow you back, so that you build your community, because they've already proved, because they're following your hashtag, that they're interested in your hashtag. So if you go and recruit them and bring them back into your business, that makes sense. Okay, it's just some basic Twitter etiquette. In general, try and keep your tweets sort of intelligible. I mean, I put out a tweet this morning, if you follow me, which said traffic. Grrr. Okay, so it was, I left home at around about 6 o'clock, and I was in bumper to bumper traffic coming here. And so I suppose that is intelligible, but that's like a one-word tweet. Make it into a short bite. Try and listen to what your friends are saying, and especially if you don't have thousands and thousands of people that you're watching. Just keep on the Twitter stream come past you, and engage with things that you make sense. Retweet the things that you think are nice. Get involved in conversations, etc., etc. Maybe even get involved. One of the things that we use hashtags for is to create like ad hoc communities. So I might want to be running a discussion about some topic or other. So I'll say, okay, guys, between 8 and 9 on Monday night, follow the hashtag Walter's stuff. and then I'll put out some questions and we'll get involved in a debate around Walter's stuff. So just try and be sort of involved in that. Respond to Twitter friends if you can. Add value to their conversation, because that's one of the reasons that people are there. They're trying to share your stuff, and you want to share with them. Try and update your status at least once a day. It actually really takes no time at all. 140 characters. I mean, there's a million things you can say. Gee whiz, because what a beautiful sunrise. Or you don't want to do too many of those, but you can find somebody else's tweet and add to that. Or I just heard in the news that there was a terrible accident. I think this is terrible. Or don't you think that Julius had a fantastic day in Parliament? Or whatever you feel like saying. Okay, fill in your profile. I've already told you. Use your own picture as the avatar. Already told you. Whenever you're referencing another Twitter user, use his name with the @ sign. I've already told you that. And use hashtags to keep context. And I've already told you that. And the final thing are lists. You have an ability on Twitter to create lists of people and topics that you wish to follow. So when you get onto your Twitter profile, under your settings, it will say lists. When you get onto that lists tag, start putting together people into groups that cover topics that you're interested in. So you might have a list of Blue Bull rugby players if you're interested in Blue Bulls rugby. So put down Blue Bulls rugby and you get a hold of Blue Bulls supporters, or Gunners supporters, because I'm a Gunners supporter. And put down that, or put down journalists, or tech journalists, or suppliers, or whatever area, photography or whatever, and create your list. It's pretty self-explanatory how you do it. And if you don't know, kind of get onto Google. Okay, we've got a couple of seconds left. I hopefully have given you an overview. What I'd like you to do for the rest of this conference is, when you're watching people speak and something comes out of that talk which is interesting, write it down. Walter said, @Walter Pike said, that the world is going to change, or augmented reality is the next big thing. Write that down, put the hashtag on it, and let it get out there. Okay? It'll do good for PURCO, because it will upgrade PURCO's profile. It'll be good for this conference, because it'll get the hashtag trending, which means that people will say, I wonder why it's trending, and I'll come to listen to it. And it'll also give me the ability to spread the things that I say to a bigger audience. So I'm speaking to 400 of you. Each one of you have got 200 followers. If each one of you tweet the things that I'm saying, I'm looking at I can't do the maths. Who's the maths guys here? But I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands, and maybe even tens of thousands of people that my message is getting out to. And that's really cool. And I really like it when I can spread my message.